Ottawa's plan to legalize marijuana has already created a spat with the provinces over how the expected windfall from legal weed will be divided.
Listen, the 50%, sorry to interrupt, but the 50% is not even...
It's a non-starter. That's a non-starter. We all agree that the price point of 50-50 is not acceptable. We all agree that the majority of the costs that are being incurred is on the provinces.
Canada's finance ministers are meeting in Ottawa tonight, and one of the main topics of discussion, how to share the tax revenues once pot is legalized next year. CBC's Catherine Cullen was at the meeting. So, Catherine, it looks like they are gearing up for another fight with the federal government on this one.
Yeah, it's funny how money tends to do that, Rosemary? And in this instance, we are talking about drug money. In fact, by some estimates, hundreds of millions of dollars, perhaps even more than that, that would come from the taxation of legalized marijuana. And a notable portion of that would actually come from the excise tax or sin tax that the government wants to charge on legal pot. Now, while you're hearing that the provinces are not particularly fond of that 50-50 split, they really say it's off the table. No way.
Some provinces are calling for 100% right now. Okay. Some territories are saying they can't cover the cost at 100%. So we have to manage that process.
We all know that it's the provinces that will bear most of the cost. So, we really need to make sure that this is not a burden on the provinces.
And when she talks about cost, she's talking about things like the price of setting up stores to sell marijuana, the online sales of marijuana, the potential for increased burdens to the police justice system, although it's not entirely clear whether or not that will materialize. And it's interesting, all the provinces saying 50-50 split, no way, but nobody is coming out publicly and offering up a different number. The provinces are saying they want to know how much the federal government is going to pay for. They want to see evidence of that. Another really interesting thing, Rosemary, that not a lot of people are talking about is that the finance ministers are also going to be talking about the price of marijuana. How much should they be charging? How are they going to keep that price low enough that they can try to defeat the black market? That is definitely something we're going to want to watch.
Okay, so I've heard some rumblings inside the federal government about how they plan to approach this. What were they saying today about this, Catherine?
Well, it's interesting. Bill Morneau may be the finance minister, but he is trying to suggest that this is not truly about money. This is about protecting kids from drugs. It's about setting up a system, making sure that it works. Does that mean, though, that he is ready to hand over all the cash? No.
Our flexibility is driven by a realization that we need to cover our costs. They're legitimate, but we also need to think about how municipalities and provinces can cover the costs required to meet our goals.
So if they want some of the money, what do they plan to do with it?
Well, they have said that they're going to be putting some of it towards health and safety issues. So we're talking about things like making sure that producers are properly licensed, public awareness campaigns. Finance officials are saying that when you add it all up, if you look over the span of about 5 years, we could be talking about $1 billion. That's those numbers that the provinces are looking for. Now, Justin Trudeau has said publicly that he'd like all the pot revenue, at least the federal government share of it, to go towards things like addictions treatment, education. We aren't, though, getting quite a clear breakdown of all of this, no specifics, and it's clear that the profits may be eaten up just by setting up the system itself.
Okay. Catherine, thanks for that. Appreciate it. This is CBC's Catherine Cullen here in Ottawa tonight. So just how much money will the government potentially cash in on? Ottawa estimates it could add as much as $1 billion in extra revenue a year through excise and sales taxes. That's only if, though, 400,000 kilograms of marijuana is sold. And the government also admits that those estimates are all high. To see how the cash crop could benefit government coffers, take a look at Colorado. So the state legalized marijuana back in 2014. Last year, it pulled in close to $200 million US in tax revenue. Much of that money goes right back into the community, about $40 million for things like school construction projects, $15 million to create some permanent housing for homeless people, and about $10 million or so pays for more healthcare workers to educate high school students about substance abuse. Tonight, investigators think